Hello, hello, hello. My face seems to be frozen. It's so exciting. I promise I'm moving. I don't know what's wrong with my camera. Fun and greetings to all of our quizzers here. So excited to have all of you join me here on this Monday night for your same great, awesome quiz. My very frozen, very resting bitch face is belongs to Sarah. My name is Sarah, also known as Quizmaster Smiles. That didn't help. Didn't help at all. All right. Well, we're going to figure out that. In the meantime, just listen to the sultry sound of my voice while I talk a little bit about how this is all going to work this evening. Nope, still frozen. Okay, awesome. Well, as long as y'all can hear me, that is the most important thing. You can see what I look like, just not that my face is moving. Anyway, we're going to have the same great, awesome quiz we bring to you every Monday night with your Geeks Who Drink Pub quiz. For those of you who are joining us who are new to the shindig, you can open up a chat on Twitch if you're on a laptop or other desktop by using the little arrow up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Great place to open up the Twitch chat if you want to be talking with other folks. But if you don't want to accidentally see answers or spoilers or things like that, you can feel free to leave that chat closed throughout the game this evening. Now, if you do want a set of rules, you can put exclamation point rules in the chat. You can also put exclamation point score sheet if you want a copy of a score sheet to keep track of your score as we go throughout the quiz. I'm leaving my face frozen for right now. There's nothing I'm going to do about it. I'll play around with it once we get to questions. So for those of you who don't know the rules, we will, as always, have 7 rounds of questions for you all this evening. 3 of those rounds will be worth extra points. Most of them are worth 8 points, but 3 of them are going to be worth 16 points. They are the usual ones. Round 2, round 6, and round 7 are worth extra. And if you want to use your Joker, Joker is a great thing to use to double your score. You're going to want to use it on one of those 16-point rounds because maths, you're going to want to use a 16-point round Joker. I'll remind you of when the 16-point rounds are coming up throughout the quiz this evening. There is a frozen person on a color changing background, and I am speaking. Hopefully, you have me unmuted so you can hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. I'm going to get us to round 1 so I can go restart my camera. In the meantime, round number 1 is called Good Luck Charlies. Good Luck Charlies is your theme of round number 1. This is a round on people named Charles, Charlie, so forth and so on. Charles, Charlie, so forth and so on. Here we go. Question number 1 for your round number 1. Here's your question 1. Small forward Charles Chuck Cooper was the first black man drafted into what sports league whose other great Charleses include Barkley and Oakley? Again, this is question number 1. Small forward Charles Chuck Cooper was the first black man drafted into what sports league whose other great Charleses include Barkley and Oakley? I'm going to go get some background music going, restart this camera, and I'll be back with your question for number 2. All right, well, I still haven't figured out how to restart my camera, but that's all right. We're going to move on to your question number 2. Here's your question 2. As a teenager, Charlie Chaplin portrayed a kid who snatches Professor Moriarty's revolver in a play about what fictional detective? Again, this is question number 2. As a teenager, Charlie Chaplin portrayed a kid who snatches Professor Moriarty's revolver in a play about what fictional detective? Or I'm just going to be Googling how to reset my camera while I read between questions. So we're moving on to question number 3 here for round number 1. Here's your question 3. Charles Schulz's first published drawing featured his dog Spike, the inspiration for what comic strip beagle? Again, this is question number 3 for round 1. Charles Schulz's first published drawing featured his dog Spike, the inspiration for what comic strip beagle? All right, moving on to question number 4. Here's your question 4. The vegan meat company Field Roast saluted Charlie XCX with this 2024 ad, from which we removed what 4 letters? Again, this is question number 4. The vegan meat company Field Roast saluted Charlie XCX with this 2024 ad, from which we've removed what 4 letters? All right, y'all, we are halfway through this round. Number 1, all about people named Charlie, Charles, etc., etc. Moving on to question number 5. Here is your question 5. When he died in 2018, Stephen Hawking got a sweet burial spot next to Isaac Newton and what father of evolution? Again, this is question number 5. When he died in 2018, Stephen Hawking got a sweet burial spot next to Isaac Newton. And what father of evolution? All right, moving on to question number 6. Here is your question 6. Scrooge spent his youth working for Fozziwig in a rubber chicken factory, according to the Muppet version of what Charles Dickens story? Again, this is question number 6. Scrooge spent his youth working for Fozziwig in a rubber chicken factory, according to the Muppet version of what Charles Dickens story? All right, moving on to question number 6. I've removed myself from the screen, but I'm still here. As long as you can still hear me, we can still play this quiz. Moving on to question number 7. Braving the dangerous route from Stockton to Mariposa, Charlotte One-Eyed Charlie Parkhurst drove stagecoaches during the 1850s gold rush in what state? Again, this is question number 7. Braving the dangerous route from Stockton to Mariposa, Charlotte One-Eyed Charlie Parkhurst drove stagecoaches during the 1850s gold rush in what state? All right, and it's time for your last question of the quiz of the round, not the quiz. We just started. The last question of the round before we move on to that bonus question. Here is your question at number 8. Ray Charles claimed that he cruised the streets of Tallahassee on a motorcycle long after he developed what condition that would have made that really tricky? Ray Charles claimed that he cruised the streets of Tallahassee on a motorcycle long after he developed what condition that would have made that really tricky. That's your final question before we move to your bonus for round number 1. All right, y'all, it's time for us to move on to your bonus question for round number 1. Before I ask you your question, I'm just going to get rid of the box right now while I mess around with my camera elsewhere. For your round number 1, here is your bonus question. In 1649, King Charles I was beheaded for treason, which at the time meant disloyalty to himself after losing what nation's civil war? Again, this is your bonus question. In 1649, King Charles I was beheaded for treason, which at the time meant disloyalty to himself after losing what nation's civil war? All right, y'all, let's go back and do your answers for your round number 1. Let's see how you did on this round of Charles's. Round number 1, question number 1. Small forward Charles Chuck Cooper was the first black man drafted into what sports league whose other great Charles included Barkley and Oakley? That was, of course, the NBA. The NBA is what we were looking for question number 1. Moving on to question number 2, we were asking about Charlie Chaplin. He portrayed a kid who in a play about Sherlock Holmes. That was Sherlock Holmes for question number 2. Moving on to question number 3. Question 3. Charles Schultz's dog Spike was the inspiration for Snoopy. That was Snoopy for question number 3. Moving on to question number 4, the vegan meat company. I mean, that color. I got a question right about that color, and I'm not really good at pop music. But anyway, hopefully you knew that was Brat or Brat. I think it's pronounced Bratwurst for the meat and Brat for Charlie XCX. But whichever way you pronounce it, that's the answer for question 4. Moving on to question number 5, that father of evolution we were looking for question 5 is, of course, Charles Darwin. And that is a Charles. It wasn't mentioned in the question, so your answer had to be a Charles. Question at number 6. I did see someone say there's other versions. Apparently, yes. But this is one of my favorite versions, the Muppet version of A Christmas Carol for question number 6. All right. And your question number 7. One-eyed Charlie Parkhurst drove stagecoaches during the 1950s gold rush in, of course, California. That's, I believe, what led us to get the 49ers as the team there. All right, and moving on to your last question before that bonus, question number 8. Ray Charles cruised the streets of Tallahassee, not even on a bike, on a motorcycle after he was blind. I have questions. All right, but that was your answer to question number 8. It's time now to give you your answer for your bonus. Here again was your question. King Charles I was beheaded in 1649 for treason, aka disloyalty to himself. because he lost the Civil War. What we were looking for was England. It was England. All right, we are going to move on to your round number 3. This one is going to be another 8-point round for round number 3, which tonight is called What's the Skinny? This is going to be a multiple choice round on Chile. Get it? Because it sounds skinny. Hey. All right, here we go. Question number 1 for your round number 3. Here's your question number 1. Much of northern Chile consists of what extra dry desert? Is it the Atacama or Sonoran? This feels like an appropriate time to remind you if you think I've mispronounced a word, then drink. It's my drinking game we play with my quizzers every week. Once again, for question number 1. No reason, just felt like I should say that at this time. Much of northern Chile consists of what extra dry desert? Is it the Atacama or the Sonoran? I see at least one of our teams in the chat did not get Rihanna, and yes, shame be on you and your house. Moving on to question number 2. A delicious Chilean pie is called pastel de choclo because it's full of, is it coconut or corn? Again, this is question number 2. A delicious Chilean pie is called pastel de choclo because it's full of, is it coconut or corn? All right, moving on to question number 3 for your round 3. Here's your question 3. Chile shares the impossibly pretty Tierra del Fuego region of what neighbor? Is it Argentina or Bolivia? Again, this is question number 3. Chile shares the impossibly pretty Tierra del Fuego region with what neighbor? Is it Argentina or Bolivia? All right, question number 4 coming at you. Here's your question 4. Those Moai stone statues on Easter Island were made about how many years ago? Is it 600 or 6,000? Again, this is question number 4. Those Moai stone statues on Easter Island were made about how many years ago? Is it 600 or 6,000? All right, folks, you're halfway through this multiple choice round on Chile. Here comes question number 5. Which star of Gladiator 2 fled Chile as a kid to get away from the Pinochet dictatorship? Is it Paul Mezcal or Pedro Pascal? Again, this is question number 5. Which star of Gladiator 2 fled Chile as a kid to get away from the Pinochet dictatorship? Is it Paul Mezcal or Pedro Pascal? All right, question number five, or sorry, six. That was five. Here's six. Which Best Foreign Film Oscar winner is set in Chile? Is it A Fantastic Woman or I'm Still Here? Again, for question number six, which Best Foreign Film Oscar winner is set in Chile? Is it A Fantastic Woman or I'm Still Here? All right, question number seven. Here is your question seven. 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair is a work by what Nobel winning Chilean? Is it Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Pablo Neruda? Again, this is question number seven. 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair is a work by what Nobel winning Chilean? Is it Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Pablo Neruda? All right, and time for that last question before we move into your bonus question. Here's question number eight. Two horse riders called huasos work as a team in what national sport of Chile? Is it bullfighting or rodeo? Again, this is question number eight. Two horse riders called huasos work as a team in what national sport of Chile? Is it bullfighting or rodeo? Be back in just a second for your bonus question for round three. For round number three. All right, here's your bonus question. Sometimes called La Estrella Solitaria, Chile's flag famously looks a lot like the flag of what 28th state? Again, this is question and number bonus. It's your bonus question. Sometimes called La Estrella Solitaria, Chile's flag famously looks a lot like the flag of what 28th U.S. state? Right now, we're going to go back and see how y'all did on this multiple choice Chile themed round. Question number one. Most of northern Chile consists of the Atacama Desert. It was the Atacama Desert for question number one. Moving on to question number three. That delicious Chilean pie, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce incorrectly again. Anyway, it's full of corn. Corn is in that pie. Actually, corn pie sounds tasty. That sounds tasty. All right, moving on to question number three. Chile shares the Tierra del Fuego with Argentina. That is Argentina. Question number four. The Moai stones, I thought they were a lot older, but they're only 600 years old on Easter Island. 600 for question number four. Question at number five, the one that started with a P and it ended in a scowl, who escaped the Pinochet dictatorship, that was Pedro Pascal for question number five. Moving on to question at number six, the best foreign film that's set in Chile was one of those two. This is also a question, did you watch the Oscars? this year? Because one of these films was in the Oscars this year, and it was not in Chile. The correct answer here was A Fantastic Woman. It won the Best Foreign Film Oscar for Chile. I don't remember the year. And I'm Still Here won the Best Foreign Film Oscar for Brazil at this year's Oscars. So, fun facts, fun facts. Moving on to question number 7. I wanted to know which of the two listed artists there is the Nobel winning author from Chile. It's also the answer if I were to ask you to name a Chilean poet. He is the answer you would always give Pablo Neruda. Um, I mean, I'm sure there are other Chilean poets, but like that is the most famous one, Pablo Neruda. And yes, I'm Still Here did win Best Foreign Film this year. This year. All right, it's time for question number 8 to answer before we move on to that bonus. That national sport of Chile that involves a two-horse rider team is rodeo. It is a rodeo. Yes, it was also nominated for Best Picture as well. Yes, thank you. Thank you. But rodeo is your answer for question number 8. Moving on now to your bonus question. The La Estrella Solitaria Chile's flag looks a lot like the one from the state I'm in right now. That would be the great state of Texas. Texas was your answer. Let's keep things moving right along to round 4. This is also going to be an 8-point round for your round number 4. And tonight's round 4 is called On Lock. On Lock. Every answer in this round is also a type of hairstyle. It's also a type of hairstyle. Gonna say this, I'm gonna guess none of the questions are actually gonna be about hairstyles. So don't expect that, but your answers will also be a type of hairstyle in addition to answering the question. Here we go. Let's go. Question number 1 for your round number 4. Here's your question 1. Taco Bell jabbed at their fast food competitors in 2002 with the now retired slogan, Think outside the what? Again, this is question number 1 for your round 4. Taco Bell jabbed at their fast food competitors in 2002 with what now retired slogan, Think outside the what? All right, moving on to question number 2. Here is your question 2. Pixar's Mr. Incredible and Tiny Tim's dad in A Christmas Carol share what short and sweet nickname? Again, this is question number 2. Pixar's Mr. Incredible and Tiny Tim's dad in A Christmas Carol share what short and sweet nickname? All right, moving on to question number 3. Here is your question 3. According to its namesake chef, Mr. Cardini, what salad shouldn't contain its now signature anchovies? Again, this is question number 3. According to its namesake chef, Mr. Cardini, what salad shouldn't contain its now signature anchovies? All right, it's time for us to move on to question number 4 for your round 4. Here's question 4. Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. is best known for designing a couple of acoustic band shells for that famous concert venue, the Hollywood what? Again, this is question number 4. Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. is best known for designing a couple of acoustic band shells for that famous concert venue, the Hollywood what? All right, y'all, moving on to your question number 5. You're halfway through this round where all of your answers will also be types of hairstyles. Here's your question 5. Utah's new flag features what animal home that's been a symbol for Mormonism from the get go? Again, this is question number 5. Utah's new flag features what animal home that's been a symbol for Mormonism from the get go? All right, question number 6. Here's your question 6. What's the medieval term for a very young male servant, like the one seen here carrying the train of the Chancellor of Oxford? Again, this is question number 6. What's the medieval term for a very young male servant, like the one seen here carrying the train of the Chancellor of Oxford? All right, question number 7 coming at you. Here's your question 7. Granted to tribe members who fought with the Brits in the American Revolution, Ontario has a reservation owned by what easternmost Iroquois tribe? Again, this is question number 7. Granted to tribe members who fought with the Brits in the American Revolution, Ontario has a reservation owned by what easternmost Iroquois tribe? All right, and time for your last question of the round. Before that bonus, here is your question number 8. The modern equivalent of Mr. Rogers might be the YouTube superstar behind Songs for the Littles, who goes by Ms. Who. Again, this is your question number 8. The modern equivalent of Mr. Rogers might be the YouTube superstar behind Songs for the Littles, who goes by Ms. Who. Your bonus question for round number 4 coming up next. All right, friends, it's that time again. It's time for your bonus question for round number 4. For the MacGyvers of gardening, Urban Dictionary describes a yard that's trimmed in the front but wild and unkempt in the back as a lawn what? Again, this is your bonus question for round number 4. For the MacGyvers of gardening, Urban Dictionary describes a yard that's trimmed in the front but wild and unkempt in the back as a lawn what? Number 4, let's see how y'all did on this hairstyle round. Moving back up to your question, number 1, Taco Bell jabbed at their fast food competition with the slogan, think outside the bun. It was bun for question number 1. Question number 2, that character from Mr. Incredible from Incredibles and Tiny Tim's dad in Christmas Carol are both Bob. Bob. We've had 2 Christmas Carol questions already. I wonder what I'll stick in the third. Moving on to question number 3. That salad named after its chef Cardini is Caesar. Caesar Cardini came up with the Caesar salad without anchovies. Question number 4. Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. is best known for designing part of the Hollywood Bowl. The Hollywood Bowl for question 4. I see that several of our folks had bowl cuts when they were children. Very exciting, very exciting. I did not. I did not ever have a bowl cut. Question number 5. The new flag feature on Utah's flag is a beehive, which has been the symbol of Mormonism from the get-go. Question number 6. The medieval term for a very young male servant is a page boy, which is a hairstyle I'm going to have to Google later because I don't know what that looks like. But apparently, page boy is a type of haircut as well. Page boy is what we were looking for that question. Question number 7. Granted to tribe members who fought with the Brits in the American Revolution, the easternmost Iroquois tribe is, of course, the Mohawk tribe. Believe they're the only Iroquois tribe that's also the name of a hairstyle, but I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the chat. And finally, question number 8. The modern equivalent of Mr. Rogers might just be the YouTube superstar Ms. Rachel. Ms. Rachel for question number 8. All right, it's time for us to do that bonus answer. I was looking for the term that Urban Dictionary uses to describe a yard that's trimmed in the front but wild and unkempt in the back. It's, of course, a lawn mullet. It is a lawn mullet because, of course, it is. Of course, it is. Oh, thank you, thank you. Someone looked up a page boy, and it's a bowl cut on an angle. Excellent. Well, I'm still going to want to look up pictures later. But thank you for doing that since I can't do it right now. All right, round number 5. Your round number 5 is, as always, going to be a multimedia round. What that means is I will have a video for you all to watch, and you're going to give me 8 answers. It is just an 8-point round. I did see someone say that it is Mario Day. That's right, March 10th. MAR 10 is like Mario. So your theme of your round 5 visual round is going to be Mario. Specifically for this round, I'm going to be playing 8 clips from movies that are showing things that Mario does in the game. So the movies have nothing to do with Mario, but the things in them will be things that happen that Mario can do in the game. You'll see all of these movie clips through once, and then of course you will see them a second time. After the repeats is when I'll come back on, remind you that we're heading to break, and then we'll come back and do your answers for this round. For any of you who are keeping score at home and you want to go by Geeks rules, I'm going to say if the movie is part of a franchise, you need to be specific. So make sure you're specific if the movie is part of a franchise. We should have the year of the movie helpfully for you in the video. But I'm going to stop talking now and get you over to your round number 5. Good luck with this round, y'all.
After all that's happened, I wonder if I don't care. I'm tired of being only 3 inches high. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of smelling foulness I can't even imagine. Or maybe I just don't.
To enter the princess's chambers, cross the room to her sleeping silhouette, pull back the gossamer curtains to find her.
What?
Princess Fiona?
No!
Oh, thank heavens. Where is she?
She's on her honeymoon.
Honeymoon? With whom?
Now, Sheriff, I'm sure if we work together, we can reach a mutually beneficial solution to our current situation.
For the last time, you two don't belong here. Get out of my town! See monster! Right there!
Mamma mia!
Chicho! My harpoon! Veloce!
Alberto!
No.
No resources, no supplies, no apparent way home. A lesser man would die here. I'll be home by Christmas.
Reconnaissance! Come on! Cheer up!
Care. I'm tired of being only 3 inches high. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of smelling foulness I can't even imagine.
Find her.
What?
Princess Fiona?
No!
Oh, thank heavens. Where is she?
She's on her honeymoon.
Honeymoon? With...
Fire! Come on! Now, Sheriff, I'm sure if we work together, we can reach a mutually beneficial solution to our current situation.
See monster! Right there!
Mamma mia!
Chicho! My harpoon!
I'll be home by Christmas.
Reconnaissance!
All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back. We're going to do your answers to round number 5. Then we'll move into your round number 6. Let's get things moving. Let's get things moving. I just noticed someone's subscription ended between the start of the stream and that commercial break. So sorry about that, but glad that you've resubscribed. All right, let's do your answers for round number 5. Let's see how y'all did here. Yes, sorry, there was no Mario Brothers movie here on your round 5. Question number 1, that of course was Alice in Wonderland. It was Alice in Wonderland for question 1. I see in the chat there's an older version even than that one, which is cool. Question number 2, one of my favorite movies is The Shawshank Redemption. Let's see if I can make myself a little smaller so you can see that better. Question at number 3 was a movie we've already referenced once this evening. That's right, it is Shrek 2. Shrek 2. Question number 5, that movie is Rango. Question number 6, coming up next. I assume this is a Planet of the Ape of some kind. It is. It's a Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is the one we were looking for specifically for question 6. Question number 7 is a very cute movie by Pixar. That is, of course, Luca. Luca for question 7. And finally, your question number 8. That is, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog. And it was the first one, Sonic the Hedgehog, for question number 8. So hopefully y'all did well on that movie-themed round. If you didn't, that's okay too. We can't all have our strengths be in movies, but hopefully it is in yours. We're going to move on now to your round number 6, and I have exciting news for any of you who have not used your Joker yet. Both round 6 and round 7, that's right, both of our remaining rounds are worth 16 points. So hopefully if you didn't Joker round 2, you saved it, and you can use it either here on round 6 or on round 7. So see how you feel about round 6. Decide if you want to double your score for round 6 or save it for round 7. Oh, yeah, so the Joker will double your score. You only get to use it one time. Hopefully you used it on round 2, and if not, you saved it for round 6 or round 7. Let me tell you about your round at number 6 tonight. It is called Ich bin ein Berliner. Hopefully I said that one correctly. Today is German Unity Day, marking 35 years since the East and West rejoined. We'll be rejoining some other countries too for each of these two-part questions. Each answer pair will combine to form the name of a real country. So each of your questions will have 2 parts. You'll get a point for each correct answer to those parts, and each answer pair will also combine to form the name of a real country. Moved my face so you could read all the words for yourselves. But here we go. First I have an example. An example to illustrate. I might ask you, Kruger's Finest was the first Beale sold in a steel what? The answer there would be can. Your part 2, Lord Byron's daughter was the early computer scientist. That would be Ada Lovelace. Can, Ada, it's Canada. Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you don't know what the country is. You'll get a point for each correct part, whether or not it ends up spelling a country. But hopefully that will give you a help if you're not sure what either one of your answers is here. So yes, the order will matter here. Y'all are keeping your own scores, so it doesn't matter for you, but just for reference sake, your part 1 answer would come first, part 2 answer second. You get the idea. Here we go. Question number 1. See, Canada. Question number 1 for your round number 6. Here's your question number 1. Part 1, both times followed by a humbug. Scrooge says what 3-letter exclamation twice in A Christmas Carol? Look, it's the 3rd Christmas Carol question. And part 2, Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga repeat the name of what weather phenomenon over 50 times in their 2020 duet? So remember, your answer to part 1 and part 2 should form the name of a real country. You'll get a point for each correct part. Once again, part 1 for question 1, both times followed by humbug. Scrooge says what 3-letter exclamation twice in A Christmas Carol. And part 2, Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga repeat the name of what weather phenomenon over 50 times in their 2020 debut. All right, moving on to question number 2. Here is your question 2. Part 1, Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King both have show-stopping songs whose titles start with what 2-letter word? And part 2, Trent Reznor fronts a very sad band known by what 3-letter abbreviation? Again, this is question number 2. Part 1, Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King both have show-stopping songs whose titles start with what 2-letter word? And part 2, Trent Reznor fronts a very sad band known by what 3-letter abbreviation? All right, moving on to your question number 3. Question number 3, part 1. The guy who married Queen Elizabeth II and the guy who won an Oscar for Capote share what first name? Again, this is question number 3. The guy who married Queen Elizabeth II and the guy who won an Oscar for Capote share what first name? That's part 1. And here's your part 2. Vietnamese white, smooth bark Mexican, and Rocky Mountain bristlecone are all examples of what? Again, this is question number 3, part 1. The guy who married Queen Elizabeth II and the guy who won an Oscar for Capote share what first name? And part 2, Vietnamese white, smooth bark Mexican, and Rocky Mountain bristlecone are all examples of what? Question number 4 coming at you. Here's question 4, part 1. Dating from around 79 CE, a statue found in the Roman town of Herculaneum depicts what fluty god having sex with a goat? And part 2, Watch Mojo says that Woody Harrelson holds the honor of having Reddit's worst ever what? Again, this is question number 4, part 1. Dating from around 79 CE, a statue found in the Roman town of Herculaneum depicts what fluty god having sex with a goat? And part 2, Watch Mojo says that Woody Harrelson holds the honor of having Reddit's worst ever what? All right, y'all, you're halfway through the round. I see a question in the chat. I believe there is no overlap between part 1 and part 2. I think if you just stick them together, it will be the name of a country, is my understanding. Let's move on. You're halfway through this round. Remember that your part 1 and part 2 answers, when stuck together, should be the name of a country. And you'll get a point for each correct answer, whether or not you have the country identified. Moving on to your question number 5, part 1, Pretend It's a City and The Nanny both starred a woman named what? And part 2, countless consumer goods have a marking showing what 2 letters to indicate they've been approved to sell in the European Union? Again, this is question number 5, part 1, Pretend It's a City and The Nanny both starred women named what? And part 2, countless consumer goods have a marking showing what 2 letters to indicate they've been approved to sell in the European Union? All right, question number 6 for your round 6. Here comes your question 6. Part 1. Instead of .com, Swiss websites typically end in .what? And part 2. A two-word phrase that translates to "in the year of the Lord" is where we get what two-letter date differentiator? Again, this is question number 6. Instead of .com, Swiss websites typically end in .what? And part 2, a two-word phrase that translates to "in the year of the Lord" is where we get what two-letter date differentiator? All right, question number 7. Question number 7, part 1. Complete with Petri dish to grow your sample. For about $10, the Home Depot will sell you a what test kit? And part 2, one of the 200 most used words in the New York Times crossword is what Latin word for eggs? Again, this is your question at number 7, part 1. Complete with a Petri dish to grow your sample. For about $10, the Home Depot will sell you a what test kit? And part 2, one of the 200 most used words in the New York Times crossword is what Latin word for eggs? All right, friends, time for your last question of the round before that bonus question. Here is your question number 8. Part 1. The maker of America's best-selling truck trades on the New York Stock Exchange under what symbol? And part 2. David Lynch once camped out on Hollywood Boulevard to campaign for Laura Dern to get an Oscar for what empire? Again, this is question number 8. The part 1, the maker of America's best-selling truck trades on the New York Stock Exchange under what symbol? And part 2, David Lynch once camped out on Hollywood Boulevard to campaign for Laura Dern to get an Oscar for what empire? All right, sports fans, we'll be back with your bonus for round number 6 here in just a moment. All right, y'all, it is time for that bonus question. I know some of you are falling asleep, but don't fall asleep. We only have one more round after this question. Also, don't know how my giggling would make things any more exciting, but here we are. Here we are. All right. The Times said it completes capitalism's victory in the Cold War when one all-American fast food chain started slinging hamburger royales at a new Checkpoint Charlie location. Once again, your question for your bonus. The Times said it completes capitalism's victory in the Cold War when one all-American fast food chain started slinging hamburger royales at a new Checkpoint Charlie location. Remember, if you're feeling confident about it, to use that joker to double your score on this round, or you can save it for round 7, which is also a 16-point round. All right, let's see how y'all did. First off, question number 1, that third Christmas Carol question of the night, the 3-letter exclamation Scrooge says twice before humbug, that would be bah, bah, humbug. And part 2, Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga repeat rain in that 2020 duet. So Bahrain is the country that gives you your 2 points for question number 1, Bahrain. Moving on to question number 2, Beauty and the Beast and the Lion King both have show-stopping songs starting with the word B. And Trent Reznor fronts a very sad band known by N-I-N. Benin is your answer for part 2. For any of you who don't know, I believe that's 9 Inch Nails is Trent Reznor's band, but Benin is the country that gives you 2 points on question 2. Moving on to question number 3, the guy who married Queen Elizabeth II, the guy who won an Oscar for Capote, R.I.P., is Philip. Philip, and of course, the second part there, those are all pines. Philippines, Philippines for your question number 3. Moving on to your question number 4. This is the one where someone had a question, and I do want to know what your answer was. That fluty god having sex with a goat is Pan, and Woody Harrelson holds the honor of having Reddit's worst ever AMA. Panama is what we were looking for question number 4. While reading this question, I did briefly forget how to spell Panama, and for some reason was thinking enema for part 2. Thankfully, that was not the answer. It was the Ask Me Anything AMA from Reddit. All right. Moving on to question number 5. The Nanny starred Fran Drescher, and so did Pretend It's a City. And part 2, that logo, the little 2 letters that are on all those consumer goods that mean it can be sold in the European Union is CE. So, of course, France is your answer for question number 5. Okay, so enema was also why you thought there was an overlap. Good to know it wasn't just me that for some reason I thought of an enema instead of what the real answer was. But no, it was the Panama. Moving on to question number 6. Those Swiss websites end in .ch, and the 2 word phrase that translates in the year of our Lord is where we get AD. So Chad was your answer to question number 6. Moving on to question number 7. You can get a Petri dish along with your test kit from Home Depot to test for mold. That would be mold. And the Latin word for eggs is ova. Moldova for question number 7. Moldova. I'm enjoying reading this round. I didn't have to answer it though, so hopefully you all did better on it than I maybe would have if I was actually answering. All right. Yes, Panama Canal, not nearly as well known as the Panama Canal. Moving on to question number 8. The maker of America's best-selling truck, that would be Ford, I believe, and it trades under F is its symbol. And David Lynch won to campaign for Laura Dern to get an Oscar for Inland Island. So Finland was your final answer for 2 points for your 1 point for F, 1 point for Inland. You didn't actually have to get both of them to get the points. You get a point for each. All right, it's time for us to do that bonus. Yes, eggs are indeed overpriced. That is correct. All right, let me give you your answer first. Here is your answer to your bonus question. Well, first, here's your question again. The Times said it completes capitalism's victory in the Cold War when that all-American food chain, that was, of course, McDonald's. McDonald's was your bonus answer.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
All right, y'all, that's right. It is time for our last and final round of the quiz. As always, round number 7 is going to be a random knowledge round. It's worth 16 possible points. How we get there is that some of the questions will have multiple parts and or be worth multiple points, so pay close attention. Also, if you haven't used your joker yet, you're going to get it automatically applied to your score. I say that you have to apply it to your score. If you haven't used the joker, it will apply to your round 7 score, so make sure to double that to get your final score at the end of the night. Now, for the questions that have multiple answers, if you're paying attention to order, pay attention to the order. It usually matters on those questions, but you're grading yourselves. So just make sure you remember which answer goes with which part of each question. All right, let's do this. Question number 1 for your round number 7. Question number 1 is worth 1 point. Just one answer for your question 1. On the hunt for Nessie, scientists dredging Loch Ness instead found thousands of balls. For what game? Again, this is question number 1 for your round 7. On the hunt for Nessie, scientists dredging Loch Ness instead found thousands of balls. For what game? All right, moving on to your question number 2. Question number 2 is worth 2 points. 2 answers for your question number 2. For hockey fans who also like musical theater, the NHL's West Side Story rivalry consists of teams from what 2 cities? And yes, I am looking for the cities here. Don't hate me. Again, for your question number 2, it's worth 2 points. For hockey fans who also like musical theater, the NHL's West Side Story rivalry consists of teams from what 2 cities? And yes, I do need the cities for you to get the point here for your question number 2. All right, question number 3 coming up next. Here is your question 3 for 1 point. 1 answer for question number 3. The striking flag seen here belongs to the labor union founded by what man whose birth is a holiday in a few states? Again, this is question number 3 for 1 point. The striking flag seen here belongs to the labor union founded by what man whose birth is a holiday in a few states? All right, question number 4 coming up next. Question 4 is worth 3 points, 3 answers for question number 4. For these 3 points, I'm going to give you a year and a poster tagline. You name the film. First is 2023. She's everything. He's just Ken. Part 2 is 1994. For Harry and Lloyd, every day is a no-brainer. And part 3 in 1984. If Nancy doesn't wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all. Terrifying. Again, for question number 4, it's worth 3 points. You are naming a film from the year and the poster tagline. First is 2023. She's everything. He's just Ken. Part 2 is 1994. For Harry and Lloyd, every day is a no-brainer. And part 3, 1984. If Nancy doesn't wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all. All right, question number 5. Question number 5 is worth 1 point. One answer for your question 5. A 2020 academic paper linked an annual spike in choking hospitalizations in Japan with the seasonal popularity of what sticky rice cakes? Again, this is question number 5. A 2020 academic paper linked an annual spike in choking hospitalizations in Japan with the seasonal popularity of what sticky rice cakes? All right, question 6 is another 3-point question. 3 answers for question number 6. Oprah's best friend, Jeff Bezos' fiance, and the pop star who sings E.T. Name the 3 celebs on Blue Origin's upcoming all-female spaceflight. Again, this is question number 6. Oprah's best friend, Jeff Bezos' fiance, and the pop star who sings E.T. Name the 3 celebs on Blue Origin's upcoming all-female spaceflight. All right, question number 7 is another 1-point question, just one answer for your question 7. The newly minted highest grossing animated movie ever is Ni Za 2, which fittingly had its US premiere at what LA movie palace? Again, this is question number 7. The newly minted highest grossing animated film ever is Ni Za 2, which fittingly had its US premiere at what LA movie palace? All right, and it's time for your last and final question of the quiz, other than your final bonus question. Question number 8 is worth 4 points. I'll need 4 answers for your question number 8. For this question, is it an AI chatbot or a Mortal Kombat fighter? Just write AI or Mortal Kombat for each of these 4. So again, this is each of these will either be an AI chatbot or a Mortal Kombat fighter. First is Grok. Second is Replica. Third is Sector. And fourth is Noob Sabot. I am sure I'm saying at least some of those incorrectly, so hopefully you have beverages remaining to drink for me. Once again, for question number 8, it's worth 4 points. You're just letting me know if it's an AI chatbot or a Mortal Kombat fighter. First is Grok. Second is Replica. Third is Sector. And fourth is Noob Sabot. All right, here is your final bonus question. Seated and holding a cane, what president was portrayed on screen for the first time in a 1937 Three Stooges short? Again, I'm just looking for a last name here for your bonus question. Seated and holding a cane, what president was portrayed on screen for the first time in a 1937 Three Stooges short? We'll see how y'all did on tonight's quiz. First off, going back to question number 1. On the hunt for Nessie, scientists dredging Loch Ness found a whole bunch of golf balls. It was golf, was that sport for question number 1. Of course, because Scotland. Moving on to question number 2. This was worth 2 points, and I did need the cities for these teams. The NHL's West Side Story rivalry. It is the Sharks and the Jets, specifically the San Jose Sharks and the Winnipeg Jets. So no points for Shark or Jets by itself. I need the city names of San Jose and Winnipeg to get a point for each of them for that question. Moving on to question number 3. That striking flag belongs to a labor union founded by Cesar Chavez. We have holidays for him in a couple of states. Cesar Chavez for question number 3. Moving on to question number 4. Question number 4 was 3 points. Naming the movie from the tagline, "She's everything he's just Ken. Is he Ken enough, though?" That is, of course, Barbie for part 1 of question 4. Harry and Lloyd, of course, come from Dumb and Dumber, a no-brainer. And finally, for the 1984 If Nancy Doesn't Wake Up Screaming, She Won't Wake Up at All, that is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street. So those were your 3 for question number 4. Moving on to question number 5. That 2020 academic paper, a year where very little happened except for Bad Boys 3 and a couple other things. Anyway, those sticky rice cakes that they eat in Japan around the new year, that would be mochi. Mochi was the answer I was looking for question number 5. Moving on to question number 6. I wanted to know the 3 celebs who will be on the next Blue Origin space flight. It is an all-female flight. Oprah's best friend, that would be Gayle King. Jeff Bezos' fiance, maybe the one you didn't know their name, Lauren Sanchez. And of course, the ET pop star is Katy Perry. Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez, and Katy Perry were your correct answers for question number 6. Moving on to question number 7. That newly minted best-selling animated film of all time. It's called Naza 2, and it recently premiered at the Chinese Theater. Technically, it's the Grauman's Chinese Theater, but if you didn't have that name, it's fine. As long as you had Chinese Theater, you'd get the point in my book. So feel free to do with that what you will. Chinese Theater is what we were looking for question number 7. And finally, your question number 8, which honestly, it would have been a really horrible question for me and my team to get because I don't know that we would have known any of these. I wanted to know if it was an AI chatbot or a Mortal Kombat fighter. Looks like we put answers of bot and maybe fighter as what we did. But whatever you did to keep track, I don't care as long as you had identified either an AI chatbot or a Mortal Kombat fighter. None of these are both, unfortunately. First off, Grok is a bot. Replica is also a bot. Sector is from Combat. Oh, that makes more sense. Bot or Combat. And finally, Noob Saibot was also from Mortal Kombat. So bot, combat was your correct answers for question number 8. I would have done very badly on that question. Seating and holding a cane, that president who was portrayed on screen for the first time in a Three Stooges short was indeed FDR. I made it easy, just made you give you the last name of Roosevelt because it's like, I mean, we could do FDR, But they also had the full name Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I was like, well, I'm just going to do last names. I did last names and I made it easy for you all. You're welcome. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, a great rest of your week. Good luck surviving the first week post daylight savings time. For those of you who've had to experience it, hope to see you all soon. We'll be back here, same time, same place, same awesome quiz next Monday. So long, y'all.